All right, amplifiers, thanks for tuning in. And today we're going to be talking about getting down to the root. Far too often, we can be looking at just the surface level of challenges. We see things coming up. We have problems that we're seeing things, and we don't take the time to really investigate in seeing what the issue is. And if we don't do that correctly, it can cause a much bigger problem. For a quick example, this weekend I was doing some cleaning around the house. Then I am moving some things around and I noticed there's some bubbles on the wall. Well, that shouldn't be there. And come to find out, oh, yes, there is a leak outside leading to water damage. So if I just focused on the bubbles and just stripped them off and painted them, well, that wouldn't really be addressing the bigger issue. I could fix the immediate problem, but wouldn't get down to the root. And our guest today is an expert, Caleb Jenkins. Glad to have him here. And if you haven't done this already and you're new to Growth Amplifiers, make sure that you subscribe. We are on all the different streaming sites for podcasts. You could find us, search Growth Amplifiers, and we're really trying to grow our YouTube channel now. We're putting some focus and attention to it to gain best tips, tools, and strategies for optimizing and growing your business by elevating the value and experience you provide. This past week, I'd spent some time down in Orlando at Scaling New Heights. Had the opportunity to connect with other thought leaders who are notable. And one of those thought leaders just happens to be one of the guests on the show today, Caleb Jenkins. Now, he is one of the top 10 QuickBooks Pro Advisors, which is a pretty great distinction. And he's top 40 under 40 in the accounting profession, which is another awesome distinction. And he's the leader of client accounting services of RLJ Financial Services. So welcome to Growth Amplifiers, Caleb.
Hey, Kenny, it's great to be here with you today. And I'm really excited about this topic that we have to talk about here on this podcast.
I am too. And one of the reasons I'm so excited is because when we connected at Scaling New Heights, you were sharing some really awesome insights from things you've read, from experiences you've had for how you help people. And I'm looking forward to continuing that conversation now. So let's set the stage real quick. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Like and subscribes are highly valuable. And let's start off by talking a little bit about the challenge that people have when we're talking about surface level.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory on this. So I have spent quite a bit of time doing microfinance work with an organization in developing countries, and it has taught me a lot about working in that instance with people in chronic poverty situations and understanding what is chronic poverty versus critical poverty. If you're interested in learning more about that, I've did other podcasts with other hosts on that topic specifically. But for now, I want to talk about the issues that come from that, which is when we work with people. In that instance, we in the West have just thrown money and things at the surface issue rather than digging down and understanding the root cause of the problem. As I've taken that lesson back to our business here, it is remarkable what the learnings are from that in terms of how we actually work with people and actually how we solve for problems and how we actually accomplish change for good is by when we see the surface problem. So in the context of those in material chronic poverty, we see that they are lacking running water or they're lacking whatever. And so we just step in, we build them a well, or we put a roof over their head, or we provide food or whatever. Well, we're actually not understanding the root cause of that problem, which could be generational. It could be a lack of education. It could be a lot of different things. So as we come back to our context, in the business, accounting, development, whatever world, I have clients that have issues with cash flow, and so they occasionally have issues processing payroll because they don't have enough money in the bank. And so a short-term solution to that problem, if I'm just looking at the surface, I could just say, hey, let's go get you a short-term loan. There's great apps out there that connect to QuickBooks, whatever. Or I could give them information on getting paid faster on their invoices, which is collecting on an invoice faster, whatever. Again, those are maybe good things to do, but they are not addressing the real problem underneath the surface. Your example was a fabulous example in the real life, everyday world of, I mean, issues in your house, issues with whatever. And those are things that we can totally understand. But the easy thing to do would have been to just cover the problem, think that you're good because we're busy, we've got lots to do, and it takes time and effort and energy, and it's a messy thing to get down into the weeds and actually solve for the root problem. To solve for that root problem, in your example, you had to go explore the problem, find what it was, and maybe if you're not inclined to go and solve for that, whatever, you got to go hire a contractor or something to come out and then pay them a chunk of money, whatever, to go fix that problem. But if by addressing that issue, you might have solved for a whole wall or something that could have corroded down the road. So by addressing the root cause of that surface problem now, you're saving for tremendous amounts down the road.
Already.
And there's just a lot of things about that in the business world too, that, I mean, we can address the surface, and we might feel like we addressed the problem, and we might feel like we actually did good, but we might have actually not solved the problem, and we might have actually made the problem worse in the end by solving now rather than digging underneath the surface and addressing the real problem.
And I'm going to go back to my example for a moment, because unfortunately, I noticed something in the wall. It was minor, maybe a month or two ago. And I was like, that looks odd. I don't have time to deal with that right now. So I fell for it myself. I saw a small issue. I didn't get expertise to look at it. It didn't seem like it was a big issue at the time, but my inclination, there was a little small orange flag that came up, and I should have gotten a professional to look at it and make sure there wasn't a bigger issue going on, because now I probably took something that maybe I've cost a couple $100. Now it might cost several hundred, if not into the thousands at this point.
Exactly.
And that's something that could happen in a business. So, when we're in the middle of a business or our lives, we have these challenges that arise. What can someone do? How can you get that fresh perspective when you don't even realize it may even be an issue? Like I was thinking, oh, that looks a little odd. It doesn't look like it's anything bad.
Yep.
So I didn't get addressed. So what would your recommendation be for someone who's maybe they see something, they don't think it's a big deal, and they don't want to just flag everyone down every time they see something? How do you advise looking at that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things on that. One is create capacity in your own schedule to deal with the things that look like surface issues that should be addressed, but we typically overlook them because we don't have capacity in our schedule to actually address them. So, so number one is create capacity. How do we create capacity? Well, we have to change our business model. We have to change our schedule. We have to do a lot of things to actually create that capacity to do that. The second thing is get an expert in that and work with an expert in that field. We might be an expert, and if we are the expert, we now have capacity to go actually address the issue. But a lot of things we're not the expert, so we need a coach or somebody to come alongside us and work with us to go underneath the surface. A lot of times we are blinded by our own issues, and we need somebody to point out our blind spots for us. And if we think that we have the answers ourselves, we actually know more than what we give ourselves credit for, but we need somebody to help us explore and dig underneath that surface and go to that root cause of the problem, and help us become the solution to our own problem. And when we do that, now we have accountability, and now we have somebody to come alongside us and help us solve for that over, maybe it might be a week, it might be a month, it might be a year, it might be a multi-year thing that actually needs to be solved for. But getting a professional or an expert in the field involved in that, and again, it still takes capacity in our schedule to do that, because we might say getting an expert in the field is great because now we don't have to do it. Wrong. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. When we get an expert in the field, we are actually adding to our own schedule, our own time for the short term. Maybe not for the long term, but for the short term. If we want to actually see a positive change, we must put more in investing in our in what we're trying to accomplish in order to have a positive outcome in the long term.
That goes back to the initial example. I was like, I gotta go and research a few people to look at it. They're gonna have to come and look at it, maybe cost me some money. So I did what I advise others not to do. I didn't get a fresh perspective. And then I forgot about it
Yep,
until it became an issue, a bigger issue. So now, rather than having spent a little bit of time, now I'm going to have to spend more time. It's probably going to have to
exactly.
have some replacement going on. It's going to cost more money. Would have been so much more helpful to address it back
Yep.
in the beginning and get down to that root
And
cause.
and the other problem with that is now you just lost capacity for other problems. So now you're on the spiral wheel, that it's an endless cycle of, if we're always addressing the issues from a period ago, we will always not, or we won't have capacity, because we're always addressing problems that were just surface things in the past. Um, and that's applicable in our own lives, our own businesses, our clients that we work with, and then a solution then as well, or going forward from that, is actually one of the things that does is we hear a lot in the conference we were just at. There's a lot of talk about advisory services and etc. A lot of
Mhm.
people are asking, what are advisory services? It's exactly that: going underneath the surface, digging to the root cause of the problem, exploring that, and helping somebody through those issues, and helping them find the solutions to their own problems, and then holding them accountable to actually solve for those problems in the long term.
Hey there, this is Kenny from Growth Amplifiers, here to ensure you get your awesome ideas into action to grow and improve your business and achieve your full potential. Take the first step by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. Take the assessment to get your personalized score. Then select from free resources to learn how to improve your score. Don't wait. Be proactive and take action now by visiting growthamplifiers.com and clicking the Start Here button. And always keep on amplifying. Now, let's get back to the show. I love that message. I was working with a client myself that kept on coming up with this reason or excuse. I don't have time to work on fixing my business right now because I'm putting out too many fires, which is basically saying I'm going to continue be putting out fires for a period of
Exactly.
time. You've got to make the time to get ahead of the fires because
Yep.
they're just going to keep on coming.
Exactly. Now, there might be a time for that. That's fine.
Mhm.
But there's again two types of those things. One is critical issues, things that they happened to you, and if we can get that critical issue under control and get back to our regular life that has capacity in it, that's fine. Those critical issues will always come. You might have a malware attack on your website, or you might have on your computer, whatever. That's an external incident that once we get that back under control, we might lose our capacity for that time frame, and that's fine. I mean, not fine, but that those incidents will happen.
Mhm.
The issue is that when we let that become a chronic problem, and that chronic problem, now we have we're always putting out fires, as you stated, with our clients. We're always putting out fire with our pricing, with our onboarding, with our um, employee issues, etc. We're always behind the curve,
Mhm.
and that is where we get beat up in our world, is when we're behind the curve. But if
So
we can be ahead of the curve and be actually have that capacity to address those chronic issues that come up, then we can actually solve for the root cause.
so one of the challenges that I have when I'm working with businesses, some of them are like doing really good, and they may not be in a big challenge, big pain, but they don't know what they don't know. Uh,
Exactly.
and so, what is the suggestion for you for someone to get that fresh perspective and maybe come to realize some things that they didn't, so that they may be able to flag, hey, these are some issues that are happening. I didn't even realize they were dragging me down. I didn't realize they could be improved,
Yep.
so that they can start working on improving in those areas. If they don't
Yep.
know they're an issue, that they may never address them.
I would say it again goes back to creating capacity. So a lot of times people don't realize that there's an issue because they're too busy dealing with the day-to-day things,
Mhm.
and they're not actually taking time to work on their business. They're just taking time to work in their business. So creating some capacity so that you can work on your business and actually solve or look at what is actually happening. Take time, waste time, term waste time, to actually solve for things that you might not even know are an issue. So that means creating internal surveys. It might be whatever the thing is that we were wanting to explore. Create that time and go waste that time. That sounds bad, but it's actually a good thing, as long as as long as you have a goal in mind with that wasted time. And that will allow you to see what the issues are and actually go address those issues, and before they become a full-blown problem.
I think that's great advice. And I always suggest there's always an opportunity to amplify, to improve. So if you ever get in the mindset everything is perfect and could not be improved, you
It's
probably need to go talk to someone, because I guarantee
absolutely,
you there is something that can be improved.
absolutely.
And with that mindset, you can go on and look and search for that and continually improve. And the thing is, things always change. So even if you get something where it is awesome at some point in time, because things change, you have to revisit things from time to time.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move into the advisors picks section of the show, and this is looking at just things that you'd like to share that you particularly like. And one of the things I'm asking is a productivity tool. So a tool, software that you use that you think is helpful, you'd like to share with others.
So one that I love that's an awesome tool is a credit card tool called Divvy. Um, and it is a credit card spend management tool. It allows us to, back to what you said previously, show us what we don't know. Is allows us to have all the data for our credit card transactions and be able to do all of the accounting and post that into our accounting solution. Fabulous tool for managing our expenses and doing incredible things there.
Awesome. So I kind of switched the view there. So then the next thing is we're looking at a book. So a book that you read recently, listened to recently, something that you'd recommend others checking out.
So, a book on this topic specifically that we talked about today is an incredible book called When Helping Hurts, by Steve Corbett and Brian Fickert. Incredible book, talking about the issue of poverty and chronic poverty and critical poverty, and actually how to help them. You might see it as a book that has no application in your life or your business or whatever. I would challenge you to read it with a fresh perspective and ask yourself, what can I get out of this for myself? And you'll walk away with just tremendous insights that are so applicable in every area of life.
I appreciate that challenge there because you can easily hear something and think, I don't feel like I'm um, chronically in poverty. However, just like we were talking about before, there's always ways we can improve. And if we're
Yep,
being honest, we all have some baggage or some mind
absolutely.
rubble that we carry around with us. That
Yep.
if we were to shine a light on it, we could do a better job there. So
That
thank you for that challenge.
at the end of the day, all poverty is a mindset issue.
Right.
So we
Um,
all have aspects of poverty.
and then the last thing to get your insights on is an online show, channel, podcast, something that you'd like to give a shout out to, you think might be worth checking out.
So this one's hard because I have so many favorites. So an in-person one, the Scaling to Heights show that we were just at, is an incredible show. The For podcasts, a couple different favorites of mine would be At the Table with Patrick Lencioni. Another one would be The Soul of Enterprise with Ron Baker and Ed Glass. And then one that hasn't had much traction over the last year or two, but is a great archive of old podcasts, is the Scaling New Heights podcast. I think that's going to be rebranded the Woodard podcast in the future. But those are three of my favorites for learning. They all have incredible topics that are applicable in any area of business.
Super cool. Thank you for sharing that and for sharing your expertise. I see Manny Torres, Scaling New Heights 2022 was great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Manny. So now for those who have tuned in, they say, hey, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. He's got some really good, interesting stuff to share. I happen to notice on your website, rljfinancial.com, you do have a guide on there, 25 tips for improving your small business during slow season. If people want to learn more about you or what you do, what are some actions they could take that would help them?
Yeah. That one was written a while ago, so I'd have to go look at that again to remember what was written there. But there's great stuff in that as to reach out to me. Just go to our website, rljfinancial.com, or you can send me an email, caleb@rljfinancial.com. Hit me up on social. So Twitter, Caleb L. Jenkins, LinkedIn, Caleb L. Jenkins, 1994, I believe. And there's lots of different places there. If you have a question, I'd love to discuss it with you. And I love to give back and help others through whatever challenge they're facing.
Super cool. Thank you for sharing that. And one tradition we have at the end of these shows is just sharing something that you'd like to share that you've learned on your journey that might help others on theirs. You've shared a lot already, but this doesn't have to be business related. It could be, but just something that comes up for you to be like, this might be something would be valuable for somebody on their journey.
Never stop learning. We have a problem when we think we have it all figured out. We never do. And even when we have something fairly well figured out, always challenge yourself with a different perspective on that topic, and keep learning on that topic, because there's a breadth and wealth of information available. And we might be experts in a field, but as long as when we view ourselves as the expert in that field, we will get thrown off our game, because we don't continue to dig underneath the surface and actually look for what else is out there. And eventually somebody will knock us off of our game because we aren't continually learning. So, and then never be so proud to think that you have it all figured out, because we don't. Well, it takes humility to actually say, I don't know, and go research it and learn what the issue is.
I think that's also an amazing advice. The next time you think, "Oh, I know this already," or "I got this down already," realize that's a warning sign for you to say, "Humble yourself." Always be open. Have that coachable mindset. Always be willing to have the humble mindset that there's
Yep.
always a way to improve. So thank you so much for sharing with the audience and for connecting today. We appreciate you. And amplifiers, for those of you tuning in, if you haven't done so already, make sure to like and subscribe this podcast, share it with your friends and family. This is all about getting actionable insights to amplify your business. Thank you for your support and catch you on the next show. We are out. To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.